Hello, Pega. It's an enormous privilege to be here, working with so many brilliant organizations to understand the truth of where we need to go with our customers and how that can be facilitated. Now, by whatever definition people are using, there's a groundswell of folks who are just wildly chasing the concept of digital transformation. They're building chatbots, they're reorganizing, reorganizing again, they're setting up, innovation committees in cities that, are odd on the base cities in the belief that that will bring transformation to them. They're really, in many cases, grabbing at lots of things because the world is unbelievably chaotic. The technology industries have brought collections of solutions and quick fixes and immediate hits and miracles to people that are increasing by the week. Every year we see dozens of new things that have a half-life of about 2 years until they themselves become obsolete and they themselves become the next legacy. This approach, well, we find that it leads to well-intentioned people going forward with pursuits that are actually very often well-intentioned mistakes. And there are three in particular that we see repeated and that we have focused ourselves on trying to figure out how to do differently. Now, the first one is, it's about how you treat your customers. Are you treating your customers in ways that are going to satisfy them or in ways that are going to be frustrating? We talk about customers, but too often businesses are organized around silos. There's the digital web group and the mobile group and the folks who worry about the branches and that contact center team. Oh yeah, and I got a separate group building out the chatbot. In each of these channels, people end up embedding business logic. They code into those channels independently how they want to engage with their customers. And you can have microservices in your back end, you can have all the latest other buzzwords, but if the way you engage with a client is dictated by something that might be baked in to your voice response unit or baked into your Salesforce.com system or baked into any of these things, then you are creating isolated bits of logic that are going to lose your customers. And that's a problem. The second problem is once you get the journeys part understood, you still have the issue of the back-end system. And most back-end systems in organizations are organized around the tasks, the accounting tasks, the execution tasks, the tasks that came in from that last merger that really, they're really not organized around clients at all. And sometimes people are trying to fix this by bouncing these little robots in. We're going to robotize that task. We're going to try to make that work. The problem is that you end up with lots of disconnected tasks that really aren't connected to outcomes from a customer perspective. And the result of all of this is that the silos of your organization, the customer silos and the, quote, front offices, the tasks and the way the work gets done, they don't support end-to-end journeys, which is what it's going to take to make clients successful. And the result of this dissonance, the result of this here is what we refer to as the digital gap. Bigger in some cases than the local Grand Canyon, that organizations fall into repeatedly by thinking about the problem the wrong way, by not thinking about how do we organize in a realistic fashion to get customers properly connected to outcomes. And we think that this is our mission. That the first thing that that picture needed was a brain. Something to figure out the next best action, the next best engagement across the different channels. That would be able to step into those channels to make them smarter, but to do it in a way that was coherent. But having a great brain, having wonderful data scientists, being able to figure out what's right, only really makes sense if you can then execute, if you can come up with coherent ways to automate, coherent ways to keep all the action aligned with the brain, end to end, to do what you need to do. And that's what Pega's vision is, to create in a single unified environment, in a single architecture, these capabilities that you can use as much of or as little of as possible, that's able to actually help you with small, easy problems to start, or let you take out an entire contact center and replace it with something state-of-the-art that's going to work exactly like you want things to work in your other channels. And the most important thing is to actually go to organizations and explain, how do you get here? Because nobody could go, well, a brand new company maybe could implement this picture from scratch, but that's not the world we live in. Which is why we talk about having an architecture, a technology, and an approach that lets you tackle these problems one journey at a time. If you're trying to handle a service request, maybe that comes into a contact center, goes into the brain fires the right muscles to go do the execution, and you get an outcome. But the brain's always on, it's thinking, it's smart. It recognizes that based on that outcome, maybe what you have is a cross-sell, upsell opportunity that the system can also guide. Or in another example, perhaps you want to open an account. And in this situation, you have somebody who wants to start in the digital web channel, wants to start online. They go, they get to a certain point, get distracted, have a question, they want to stop. Maybe they want to wait a day or two. And then they want to walk into a branch and be able to pick things up exactly where they were. And then execute brilliantly, consistent with the way you want to run that journey, tuned to that customer, to that product, to that jurisdiction. This is our vision of putting together the intelligence and the execution capability and, frankly, being able to make it real. Real from a technology point of view, real from a rollout point of view. So you can actually do these things in ways the organization can get quick wins and consume. Drill into that account opening example. In Pega, we think of things like this as, quote, cases, representing a customer journey that has a series of steps that are logical, that are frankly probably pretty easy for people to agree on based on that life cycle, those chevrons at the top of the picture. But one of the things that frankly I think is a problem with other and more simplistic ways to go handle this opportunity and risk is we recognize fully that your business is dimensional. It's not enough to have linear sets of steps that you put if-then-elses in and make things confused. You need the ability to get global agreement on a set of large principles and then be able to override, in particular scenarios, how you handle a different customer type. Override how, for example, you incorporate a product variation. Override the compliance or offers that might be special in a particular jurisdiction. And that's what Pega does to bring the organization together so that you can really create a living, active, outcome-oriented approach to how you engage with your customers. And this we call the situational layer cake that lets you incorporate variation in a way that also promotes standardization. And what's really exciting about this isn't just the design. when you go to the pavilion, this is our actual development environment. This is the way we're promoting how people can and should think about their business. And from these designs, our software writes your software. When you change one of these, your software automatically changes. Think of it as kind of self-driving software. And you can use as much or as little as you want. You can use these as services to your different front ends. We can mash up into a user experience, so we can become part of your user experience, or we can be a full-fledged contact center desktop. All of these elements provided and incorporated in the design. And what's really cool about this is that being model-driven in this way, being no-code in this way, provides an incredible future-proof design. As technologies change, we can just change what we generate, change what the system outputs. And what that means is that by modeling this way, as new technologies come in, as that digital chaos happens, as new concepts appear, we can incorporate those in the architecture, and you can take advantage of things that you didn't even know about.